Welcome, friends, to Alex Unlocked. This is your host, Alex. Anyway, I wanted to talk today a little bit about needing to stop talking about masks. We see it is blown up all over the internet over the past few weeks. Masks, masks, masks. You should wear them, you should wear them, you should wear them. There's all these videos about people who aren't wearing them and they're being jerks and they're spitting in people's faces and it's just craziness. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, here's the science behind it, here's the science behind it, here's the science behind it, and a lot of other people saying, well, I can't breathe, it's my right, it's my right. And there's just so much divisiveness. The conversation needs to end. And the reason behind that is science. People are like, what? Science? The science says we need to wear them. Okay, fine. Science says we need to wear them. But you're not listening to the other side. And that is the problem. People are having basically these debates online, on the internet, and it's all about winning. And that is not working if anybody was paying attention. So, there's a couple of YouTube videos that I think are very effective at explaining why arguments on the internet don't go so well and what can be done to try and persuade somebody to change their mind or to change their view. Because I believe that that's kind of the crux of this matter. It's not just about let's spread information. It's about why aren't you changing your view because I feel that your view is invalid. So, the psychology that goes behind this is just saying that there's a lot of cognitive biases. There's a lot of the backfire effect. They actually suggest that if you are trying to present evidence anecdotally or scientific studies or something like that, and somebody else has a very different opinion than you, that it's actually the data just doesn't change anybody's opinion. It doesn't matter. They're going to use that data, no matter which side you're on, they're going to use that data to fit their own preconceived notions, their own conclusions, and anything that you have to present and share is just going to be dismissed and or reinterpreted. The other thing too is that pretty much it also increases divisiveness. It increases polarity. So people who used to have less extreme opinions might be getting sick of the whole situation and might be forming more and more extreme opinions just because you're hearing so much extremity from one side and so much extremity from another side that there's not really a nice neutral standpoint going into things. And so how do you win an argument on the internet? Well, they've shown that the people whose minds have been changed have been most effectively changed by the presentation of new information, the presentation of coming at it from a completely different angle, the whole idea of not rehashing stuff that's already been rehashed because your mind is just going to ignore just the whole thing. It's like, okay, well, we've already heard about how important it is to wear masks, but we've also already heard the argument of like, well, why are we wearing masks now when we were told not to wear a mask a few months ago? Okay, so to that end, we need to, and they also say use I, not we, so I'm going to rephrase that. The conversation about masks really should end. But to that end, I also feel like there's a little bit of some misinformation that I've experienced because I have a variety of masks that I've had to wear. I work at Amazon. I have to wear masks at work, working in a very physically intensive and hot environment. And so I feel that maybe I can provide a little bit of perspective that's kind of a little bit of a middle ground that maybe hasn't been approached yet. Hopefully going to help us understand why we can stop talking about masks and being able to still be respectful of other people. The reason that I decided to make this video actually though was because I was going into Walmart yesterday and I was wearing my awesome mask. This is the mask that I wear when I go into stores. I bought it about a month ago, and I bought these filters more recently than that, maybe a few weeks ago. Anyway, this is the mask that I wear when I go into stores, and what the comment was from 3 different Walmart employees was, wow, what an awesome mask. That's gonna help me breathe. I bet you can breathe so much easier in that. Not true. And some other people are like, wow, I've always wanted a mask like that. And I bet that works so much more effectively. Well, let's talk about it a little bit. But first, I'm just going to show you about the different masks and how they get put on and their comfortability and wearability, because I feel like that's also being ignored in this conversation. So here we go. This is a mask. Cost me $125 plus shipping. I had actually been doing a donation run for the Navajo Nation, and I said, well, if I'm already buying them and I'm already getting shipped, then maybe I'll just buy another one and help with my own shipping costs and kind of just combine it all together. And so here we go. This actually is very ergonomic. It's a 4-point harness. The filters themselves were like, I don't know, $20, only I expedited it, so it was a lot more. And you just want to make sure that there's a good seal. If you're going to be wearing this for your own protection, if you're wearing it for others' protection, it really kind of doesn't matter, because it's going to work. So, and then you just cinch it up. Hello, here we are, Alien Alex. But there's a little bit more. I'm going to talk about the filtration system later, but I'll just point out that there's different kinds of filters that you can put on this. The mask that I owned before this is a half mask. It's this one here. And it doesn't have any filters on right now, so I'll use the filters that I used to use until COVID. And I'll go, well, I guess now's a good time to talk a little bit more about them. So these are the different kinds of filters. And you can see they're both pink. They're by 3M, both of them. This one is, so they talk about N95 masks. This one is a P100. So N95 means it removes 95% of particulate matter in the air. P100 means that it removes 99.97, which, if anybody knows, is actually a HEPA filter. It's just OSHA's standard for HEPA filter. And so it's actually significantly better filtration than a N95 mask. This is even better filtration than a P100. So the P stands for you can use it with certain kinds of oil-based aerosols if those are in the air. I don't know what circumstances actually allow that. But I also have this other one here, and this is the 60926, and it filters out, oh man, it filters out so much stuff. Let's see here. Organic volatile compounds. I know that hydrocarbons maybe, I don't know. It filters out chlorine, sulfur compounds, ammonia, all sorts of stuff. Plus it's a P100 filter. So I'm going to attach those on here. Just real quick, sorry. Just to let you guys see. But I will tell you that these filters are much more filtery than just the pink P100 cloth ones. And these also eliminate odors, and so you can't actually smell anything. So it's actually kind of a good way to check the mask if it's working, because if you can smell something, you know that the seal isn't on proper. So it's got a 4-point harness as well. It's a half mask. It doesn't protect the eye. It doesn't protect the eyes. There we go. So this is what I owned. Oh yeah, it just hooks to itself. There we go. I guess it's more like a 3-point. Anyway. So I think you can hear me actually a little bit better in this. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's just this one has more resonance. But I'm going to take it off anyway. But just to show you. So these filters actually can go on any of these masks. So this can go on this mask. This can go on this mask. These can go on this mask. Doesn't matter. So I actually started buying the HEPA filters, the P100s, and started buying masks when I got asthma. And the asthma particulates are much smaller than the aerosolized and otherwise particles that you would have to worry about for COVID. They're worried about mostly droplets, but even if you're doing aerosol particles, they're more like like water mist. And they're still way bigger than I think it's like 0.2 microns, I think is what HEPA filter, maybe it's 0.3, filters out. So you really don't need something that is necessarily this intense. But I need it if I have asthma. But even these, compared to these, are still too intense. So the comment from the Walmart employee is saying, oh, I bet you can breathe a lot easier. You can breathe a lot easier. That's actually not true. This is restricted breathing much more than your average mask. And this is way more restricted breathing than this one. And I will tell you, I bought these specifically as an emergency because I was having asthma issues at home. And I was like, well, I'm going to be going on a plane with a whole bunch of infected people, whatever. But I really was like, I need to be able to have something that I can wear while I am sleeping. And I will tell you, right now, the restricted breathing on this one is such that when I was having asthma issues, I couldn't actually wear this kind of filter on any kind of mask for more than like 15 minutes without starting to struggle breathing. When I am in Arizona, I can wear this anytime I'm awake, but not while I'm sleeping. I actually stop breathing. So I was actually able to, when I had my asthma symptoms, be in a really relaxed state with this on, but on the first half of my plane trip, I was not able to sleep with this. On the second half of my plane trip, I think maybe I was just getting a little bit better, but I was able to sleep with this on. Your breathing is reduced. So let's talk about the next kind. That's I just got this. I work at Amazon, obviously, and so we got these just a few days ago. They are reusable. You can put another filter in here, and it's a cloth mask. It's fairly thick, and I would say that my experience so far has not been so good with this. It's let me see if I think it's easier to breathe out than the other one. First of all, I don't really like the seal. Second of all, kind of has a little bit of smell. Third of all, I'd say it feels like maybe it's about as easy to breathe through as this. I think it's maybe easier. But the problem is that I work intensely enough that by the time I have my 2-hour shift break, this thing is saturated. They fortunately gave us 2, so I started wearing the other one on the second half of the shift, but like it's literally soaked. And I can tell you that once it becomes soaked, 2 things happen. One is that the ability for it to filter is diminished, because once it's wet and is permeated with wetness, the filtration is not nearly as good. Now, that's not to say that it won't filter, but it's not as good. The other thing, too, is that when it is wet, it actually does stick to my face, but it's wet sticking, and I was trying to breathe through, like, some kind of a membrane of water, and I can't breathe. Like, literally, I was like, I couldn't breathe after a couple hours wearing this thing. So that's not my preference for work. I know a bunch of my other coworkers do wear it at work. I think that I burn a lot more calories. I'm a little bit hefty, a little bit more calories than they do. So there we go. This is your standard medical mask. This is what I wear most of the time when I'm at work, and I don't necessarily have a problem breathing. It is a little bit restricted. I know that after a full shift, it's notable. It's definitely a decrease in oxygen, but would I say that I can't work? No, absolutely not. I can totally work a full shift with this, not really, other than just an inconvenience of like, man, I feel like my breathing is restricted. I don't feel like I'm in imminent danger. I don't feel like I can't work. So when people are saying, oh, breathing, it's so restricted. Well, it's like minimally restricted, guys. It's like 2% of your oxygen. So, a healthy person should be almost consistently above 94% oxygen, pulse oximeter. And I would say that wearing this, I don't think my oxygen levels have ever gone under 94. Anyway, however, there is another mask that I prefer slightly to that. And I can't tell you about the efficacy of these masks. I don't know how much filtration it's got. I doubt it's 95. But the other thing about the 95 is it really does need a tight seal. If it's not a tight seal, it really doesn't matter. Here's the one that is actually the easiest for me to breathe out of. And they make it by Uline. I don't know what it is. I think it makes my face look fat. And it definitely slides down a lot. But it's one of these kind. And it definitely is the easiest to breathe through. And I'm guessing that means it's got the least amount of particulate matter that's being filtered out. I know that when I'm holding it here, I can feel my breath. So I'm guessing it doesn't really do that great of a job. But I'm sure it does enough of a job that it probably protects the other people that we're talking about protecting. I'm convinced that pretty much any kind of protection is significantly better than no protection, and I can attest to that because at the end of any shift, I mean, these are supposed to be disposable, end of any shift, like I try and put these on again, and I'm like, oh, that smells disgusting. Or during a shift break, I'm like, man, this smells like saliva. And it's just the amount of breathing that I'm doing as I'm working is, I mean, it's just like, so obviously all of that is getting trapped and all of that is not going anywhere. So as far as what people are saying about, oh man, my breathing is restricted. Absolutely, your breathing is restricted. It is restricted. Like I have gotten to a point where depending on the mask, I cannot breathe after a while. But I also contend that you have to be under some certain circumstances. I could wear this all day long, not at work, not in the heat, or even in the heat, but just not like exerting myself like crazy. I could wear either of these two all day long, no problem. I could wear this one all day long, no problem. I could wear, again, not with asthma symptoms. When I had my asthma symptoms, it was different. And I could wear this one for probably a couple of hours, not doing super strenuous labor, and have no problem. So, but people who are have issues with their lungs, like absolutely, they're going to have issues. And so I think when people are saying, oh, well, you should just care about the welfare of mankind, it's like, well, no, there really are real issues. But that's not to say that, like, just because you have issues doesn't mean you have issues enough that, like, it's warranted to, I think there are people who are making excuses. But there's a lot of other people who don't agree with wearing the masks who do wear the masks. We see about the people who don't agree with wearing the masks and they don't wear the masks and they spit in people's faces and do all sorts of terrible things. But like my mom, she doesn't want to wear a mask. My dad, he doesn't want to wear a mask. And they fall on different ends of the political spectrum. And my brother is definitely way politically different, my older brother. And he doesn't want to wear a mask. And my younger brother has a medical issue. He has cerebral palsy. He doesn't like things on his face. And he doesn't want to wear a mask. He also doesn't go out that much, though, because nobody wants him to get sick. He does have a face shield, but even that, he can't go back to work. And he wants to. He wants to go back to work. But because people are making decisions, I guess, that's kind of a thing. So basically, just some food for thought. A thing about these masks, though, is that I think they're assuming that you can breathe out easier, maybe because they're assuming that you have something called a PAPR system or something else. So a PAPR system, I don't remember what the acronym exactly means, but it basically means that it's a powered air purifying respirator, maybe? And so there's a whole tubing system. Now, this mask by itself without filters was probably like $50 I bought a couple years ago. It's probably a lot more now. And the filters themselves were around 20. I think they're going for more like 25 now. These masks, again, I bought it online from like a fire department sale thingy, and they were like $125. You can buy them for like $200 on Amazon. And then the filters, I think a couple years ago, were like $10, and now they're like 20 or something like that. Anyway, but a PAPR system requires a different kind of filter, and I think those go for like $40-50 or something like that. But the actual powered part, you have to get the battery, you have to get the cable, and you have to get all this sort of stuff. And I think I looked it up, and it was like another $400 or $500. So but it's powered, and so you don't have to worry about air not going in. And you don't have to worry about breathing, because think of it similar to a CPAP maybe. Air is getting pushed into your lungs, and you have air that's available for you to breathe. So I could work in that mask and not have a problem. Anyway, just some thoughts, especially if you're thinking, oh, well, I just want a better one. Well, remember how much you're protecting, how, whatever. If you want to think about the science, that's fine. If you want to think about, well, it's my right, it's not my right, thinking about others, just know that, like, I have had issues with being able to breathe, and so I understand that. I also know a lot of people who don't want to wear masks, and they do. And so I really feel that the benefit of us continuing to talk about masks, the way it's being talked about right now, is just going to continue to divide us, and it's going to continue to make people's opinions more polarized. This is an attempt to hopefully begin the end of that. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and I will see you later.